The growing influence of far-right parties in European politics. Europe is marching to the right. Italy, Poland, the Netherlands, Hungary, France and now the UK have all witnessed over recent years a lurch to the political right. The British voters went to the polls on the 4th of July 2024 with the Conservative Party suffering the biggest defeats in its history. Labour won a landslide but with less of a share of the votes than they did at the last election. The far-right Reform Party secured its first 4 seats and their popularity is rising. France. The French voted in the first round and Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally, RN, party made big gains, winning an estimated 34% of the votes of the French elections. For the second round, however, French voters shocked the world by rejecting Marine Le Pen's efforts to see her RN party take control of France's legislature. A stunning victory made possible due to tactical voting. The march of the far right to power in France may have been stalled for now, but for how long only time will tell. Marta Lorimer, lecturer in politics at Cardiff University, said that the far right's resurgence in Europe had not happened overnight. The RN's success in the EU elections shows both how able the party has been to win the loyalty of a strong core of voters and win over new ones, and how normalized the far right has become, she said. We have already seen more and more far-right parties form in the EU and become more successful. We have also seen mainstream parties copy their policies. There is growing support for the far right, and this is not helped by the mainstream political parties who have lacked the moral courage to reject their ideas and even sought to replicate a number of the policies to appeal to the far right. The main parties must be firm and honest about immigration, and whilst it has generated some local tensions, it is not the source of the fundamental problems many of our countries in the West face around the economy and the increasing gap between the rich and the poor. Rather, immigrants are being scapegoated for the failure of successive governments and their policies. Mainstream parties must stand up and stop pandering to the far right. Multiculturalism and diversity has brought greater richness to our national fabric. The failures of our national leaders and political parties along with their failed policies must not lead to the targeting of ethnic minorities. UK. In the UK, poor financial policies and mismanagement of the nation's finances, underinvestment in the NHS and critical infrastructure, Brexit, the disastrous budget by the Liz Truss government leading to huge instability in the financial markets, the wasting of billions during the COVID emergency were not the fault of immigrants but due to the calculated decisions by our own elected politicians. Whilst immigration must be better controlled to protect the nation and manage to ensure the needs of the nation are met, the hysteria being whipped up by certain politicians and media outlets leads us to a dangerous path which could spiral out of control should strong leadership not be shown. Europe. According to the statistics website Statista, the share of seats held by the main far-right party in the national parliament of certain EU countries has grown significantly. Fidesz of Hungary had 59%, PiS of Poland 35%, FDI of Italy 30%. While the parties may be part of broader coalitions, the numbers remain significant and present a real risk to the very social fabric of European communities. In France, before the last presidential elections, the Interior Minister of France, when facing off with Marine Le Pen, accused the far-right leader, whose party was founded by a neo-fascist group in 1972, of being too soft on Islam. Ms. Le Pen has gone a bit soft, you need to take some vitamins, you're not tough enough here. You say Islam is not even a problem. This pandering to the far right by the French leadership has not helped the president but has actually strengthened and emboldened the far right. The Conservative Party. The same applies here in the UK, where the Conservative government under various leaders over the last 14 years have pandered to the far right and not confronted hateful comments and actions by senior leaders in their party. The comments of Boris Johnson towards Muslim women observing the veil as letterboxes are well known, as is the impact on Muslim women as a result. In recent years, Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, has sought to be the torchbearer for the far right as she looked to consolidate her position with the right in her party by constantly making comments with racist undertones and misleading the people. Other cases include more recently Liz Truss, former British Prime Minister, Lee Anderson the Reform MP and Tory donor Frank Hester. A pattern has been emerging in recent years that has grown more darker and more brazen due to the inaction of the Tory leadership. Braverman has consistently expressed far-right sentiment during her time in government. The truth is that the Islamists, the extremists and the anti-Semites are in charge now. They have bullied the Labour Party, they have bullied our institutions, and now they have bullied our country into submission. Again, her remarks were not condemned by the leadership as they ought to have been. Rishi Sunak remained mostly silent so as not to cause upset to the right wing of his party, though some former ministers and senior Conservatives accused her of undermining the party for the sake of her own leadership ambitions. Nigel Farage and the Reform Party are no strangers to making the headlines for the wrong reasons. A number of the party supporters and candidates have been found to have made hateful comments. Most recently, a Channel 4 undercover reporter recorded Andrew Parker, an activist for the Reform Party, making openly racist and homophobic remarks. He called Rishi Sunak AF GP********. Sunak in his response was visibly angry and hurt. He showed more emotion than he had done in his years as leader. Whilst such behaviours are not to be condoned, one does wonder whether he felt a similar amount of pain when his party members displayed hate, prejudice and racism towards entire communities and he and others in his party remained silent. What the Prime Minister felt is what many Muslims encounter on an almost daily basis, though it often goes unnoticed and unreported. The hate they face is real and hurts just as much. One would hope that Sunak would apply the same level of emotion and pain to supporting and protecting others from similarly hateful comments and actions to show empathy to their suffering. Had he done this earlier, he may have been spared the racial slurs that hurt him and his family so deeply. Keir Starmer has not helped with his purge of the left in his party, quashing any dissent, something previous Labour leaders have never done to the same level. He is clearly appealing to those to the right of the spectrum as he seeks to capitalise on the disaffection and disillusionment with the Conservative Party. Conclusion. There are uncertain times ahead. The far right-wing populist movements represent a real and present danger. Sadly, in a number of countries, instead of countering the far-right narrative and lies, we have politicians from both the centre and those to the left seeking to appease them and adopting their policies. The failure of our political parties to address the concerns of the common people could lead to greater disaffection and disillusionment with the political process, which runs the risk of giving rise to extremist parties at the various edges of the mainstream political spectrum. The very future of our democratic nation is under threat should this course not be changed. The France results demonstrate what can be achieved when communities come together to face hate and better organize. The far right can be repelled when the silent majority play an active role and say no to hate. O humanity! Indeed, we created you from a male and a female, and made you into peoples and tribes so that you may get to know one another. Surely the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous among you. Allah is truly all-knowing, all-aware. Quran 49:13